Welcome to the MasterMINED Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us for weekly sessions led by industry pros, where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. From heat management to site optimization, our monthly deep dives cover the technical know-how you need to succeed. And with access to our entire back catalog, you'll never miss a beat. But that's not all. Our members enjoy exclusive one-on-one sessions with veteran miners, plus direct access to special pre-sales and insider opportunities at Bitcoin Mining World. Ready to take your mining to the next level? Join the MasterMINED Club today and secure your spot in the future of Bitcoin mining. Visit bitcoinminingworld.com or scan the QR code now. And now back to the show.
All right, welcome everybody to our webinar. We haven't done one of these in a while, but we're going to get back in the groove here. So thanks for being with us. So today we have a very special guest, General Kenobi, and I'll be bringing him on screen very soon here. And today we're going to be talking about, Stratum V2 and the future of Bitcoin mining pools. So a lot of you have heard recently about the different decentralization efforts within Bitcoin mining, and especially with pools and protocols, and with Stratum V2 and what Demand Pool is doing. They're doing some really interesting things. So, a little different than, for example, maybe what like Ocean Pool might be doing with their data, right? So Demand has something called Slice. I won't get into that though, because General Kenobi will be coming on here and he will do a much better job than I can. All right, so in the meantime, make sure you say hello, put your comments in the chat, in the comment box, let us know that you're here, give a little hello or a thumbs up, and make sure you have your questions ready. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to show some things here. Bitcoin Mining World is proud to have this Bitcoin mastermind. And like we said, we were trying to do this on a monthly basis. So anyway, if you'd like to go to our Telegram channel, we have Scott's Deals, t.me/Scott's Deals, or you can scan that QR code and you can find all the latest mining equipment deals. All right. So anywhere from miners to containers to mining farm sites as well. So give that a shot. All right. So another really cool thing that we have upcoming is in Dallas. So it's actually Irving, just outside of Dallas, Texas. And everybody knows about the Mining Disrupt conference, right? Well, Mining Disrupt is taking place in Texas, actually. It's usually been in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, and now this time it's actually in Texas. So Bitcoin Mining World is putting on a happy hour. You can actually RSVP there. You can see some of our co-hosts, which is ASIC Miner, ASIC Repair Parts, and EMCD, okay? And here is a QR code as well that you can use to RSVP. So just give that a quick scan, and that'll take you to the Luma page where you can RSVP. The first 200 people are free, and we are at about 115 RSVPs so far. So make sure you go there. It's either 2.tools/happy hour, or you can scan that QR code. All right, one more thing before we bring up General Kenobi. Just the other day, we found that we have 30 used ant boxes for sale. Actually, some of them are not even used, but it's a fire sale. They need to go quickly. The owner just needs these off his lot. Otherwise, they're just going to go to a scrapyard. All right, so each one of these containers is $13,000, which is a great deal because these are like $35,000 if you want to import them from China. And actually, Bitmain is not even making the regular ant boxes anymore. They're only doing the hydro boxes. So if you want to pick up 30, you have to buy the full lot, $13,000 a piece. Contact me, Offered Scott, on Telegram. All right, let's get to it. Who do we have here? Hey, there he is. General Kenobi. I don't even know your real name, or is that your real name? Not General, right?
I do have a real name. Sadly, my parents were not so cool to call me General Kenobi. But honestly, in the Bitcoin world, if someone says, "Hey, I was with this, whatever my name is, right, guy," people will go like, "Who are you talking about?" But then you say, "Oh, Kenobi," and at least here in Spain, Europe, and in a few mining circles, they'll go like, "Oh, that crazy guy, the Spaniard." Okay, so
That
at this
guy.
point, my name isn't even important anymore. So that's pretty fun. I
There you
never
go.
expected that.
Yeah, and it plays well with the whole Bitcoin thing, right? Everybody likes the privacy, and it's just one more step there towards privacy. But
Exactly.
yeah,
You get it. You get it. You definitely get it.
well, awesome. We're very glad to have you here. We are like already 10 minutes in. I blabbed way too long, and then our intro is like another 5 minutes with the countdown. So let's get at it. We're gonna have about 45 minutes of a presentation from you, and I think you have like 50 pages on your slide deck. Yeah, we'll like pound through those like one per second. But yeah, we're here, like I said earlier, to talk about the future of Bitcoin mining pools, and Demand Pool has something pretty cool going on. So yeah, I guess why don't you just introduce yourself first, and then I can throw up your slides.
Yeah, definitely. So real quick, I'm half Spanish, half German, and yes, I speak good English. Not because in Spain we watch a lot of Netflix, but because I lived in the Middle East for a while. So I went to an American high school. That's where I got my English properly, because otherwise here in Spain is actually not that good. But that's besides the point, because I started studying economics about 5 years ago here in a regular college. So Keynesian economics, might as well ignore it, right? But while studying that, I got into the Bitcoin mining business through an internship with Northern Data, German Bitcoin miner, very big back then. And still very big, but they're pivoting to AI like many Bitcoin miners are doing. And that's how I got my footing into the Bitcoin mining industry. And later on, also started getting involved with meetups and more community involvement stuff around Bitcoin here in Spain and in Europe. And last year, I decided to look for new projects, and hey, Demand looked like the most interesting one around the block. So here I am talking about Stratum V2, Bitcoin mining pools, the plumbing of Bitcoin mining. So
Nice.
that's how I land here.
I like that. The plumbing of Bitcoin mining. Okay. Yeah, what I say about the Bitcoin mining industry is it's like the only really tangible part of it, right? Like the buying and selling of Bitcoin, it's very virtual, but mining is like the tangible physical part. So I guess, the mining pools are the plumbing of it, right?
Exactly, definitely. I mean, they are the ones making things go around, right? Without Stratum V1 and now Stratum V2, pools wouldn't exist, and therefore the mining economics wouldn't work. So I guess no mining. But
Very
that's
cool.
now besides the point.
Yeah,
Because
well, we can let you get right into your presentation if you want. I know you have a lot to go through here, and
yes,
yeah, I'll just leave you to it. I'll be here in the background.
thank you very much, Scott. Yeah, I mean, over my 4 years in the industry, I learned a lot, and especially in the past year, I was able to like go down the Bitcoin mining pool rabbit hole, and especially the whole like protocol that's underneath everything, right? Which I'm calling here the plumbing. And I wanted to like use a bit of the history of how Bitcoin mining protocols work, because everyone knows about the S9, everyone knows about the S19, right? About MicroBT, Bitmain, right? About the big ASICs, big data centers, but like what's underneath that, right? What's powering all of this? And that would be the protocol. So I wanted to like use a bit of like the history, the background of how protocols evolved to get to where we are right now, and to explore why a version 2 is necessary, right? Because hey, if we got so far with version 1, why do we even need, right, version 2? Why do we need an iPhone 27, right, if the iPhone 17 was already good enough, right? So in this case, there's thankfully not that many versions. We're only Stratum V1 so far and deploying Stratum V2. So let's get down to business. We're going to take a look at a few vectors of centralization. The first one is the protocol itself, because once you get into how Bitcoin mining works and the pooled business side of things, you realize that everyone's been concentrating on the protocol, like, hey, who's building the blocks? But we should also be paying attention to the second vector, and that would be the mining payouts. Like, how does the economics work, right? That's something that Satoshi Nakamoto really understood, right? It's not about just the technology, but also the incentives, the economic incentives on top of that, right? The economic layer on top of that. So then we will look at how we change that at demand. We can see Stratum V2 and Slice. Those are our proposals for fixing the mining protocol problem issue, centralization issue, and also the Slice, the mining payouts issue, which basically, once you get down to it, it's not just like a good thing to have. Like, it's not just, oh, nice, we're now more decentralized. It's also like making money for the miners, because you're leaving pennies on your way to the bank because of inefficiencies, and even potentially, as we will discover, some foul play in the mining payouts scene. And yeah, then we'll just finish it off with a quick presentation of where we're at right now at demand. So first vector, the protocols. We'll quickly go over the history of the protocols, because people may think that Stratum V1 was always around, but that's not true. At the beginning, you would just go into your node, you would download Bitcoin Core, go into your node and go into generate coins, and bam, you would just start mining. That was the first protocol, that easy. That took us from 0 terahash, from like nobody mining, all the way to like, I think it was something like 1 or 2 terahashes, which nowadays is nothing, right? Everyone has at least 1 terahash. You can just go buy a BitAxe, and you're set. You have as much hash rate as the entire network had at the end of 2010, right? Then right afterwards, as pools started coming into the scene, and as mining started becoming more competitive, GPUs getting into the game, right? We got Get Work, which enabled GPUs to enter the scene and get things going much more smoothly than before, because suddenly we saw how the node got separated from the miner, right? They're not one thing anymore. They're not all in one. Miners are getting specialized, right? Free markets, that's what happens. And that took us from like 1 terahash to 10 terahashes. You can see here the hash rate. This is the linear one. And then we have the logarithmic one, the exponential one, right? So afterwards, we got get block template. That will be BIP22. You can take a look online or ask ChatGPT or whoever you want about it, and they will tell you more or less what I'm going to tell you, that it didn't really last long. It kind of was created at the same time as Stratum V1 or Stratum at that point, and it was supposed to be created to enable FPGAs and ASICs, because FPGAs are like kind of like semi ASICs, you know, like the step before. So very quickly it was forgotten. It's still available as far as I'm aware, and it's kind of what Stratum uses. So Stratum kind of like built on top of it, but kind of replaced it in a weird manner. And here we have the original announcement of Stratum by Slush himself, who is also the creator of the first pool, which is very interesting. And you can see that suddenly we go from having changes every couple of years as the technology evolves to just having one protocol from the very beginning. Like, we only had 20 terahashes. Most likely everyone in this call has more than 20 terahashes running. So it's kind of crazy that we went from 20 terahashes with 1 Zeta hash with the same protocol, the same piece of software. And here we can see how the hash rate has evolved. Once again, linear and also logarithmic. And we can see that for the first year and a half, more or less, until you got to like not much hash rate, so 0.5 terahash, 1 terahash, around that area. We had the Bitcoin client, the original one. Then once we got to 10 terahashes, that's when we got the Get Work, afterwards Get Block template, which didn't last too long, and finally Stratum V1 for the rest of the time. So we went from very scrappy, moving fast, to suddenly stopping innovation, right? Like, go quickly and break things, make sure that everything gets improved and you can get that extra bit of efficiency, to suddenly like, oh, here we are, that's it. And the problem is that you can clearly see, at least on the linear one, that there's kind of like a change in pace, right? And I think most of us are also aware that Bitcoin mining before the S9 and Bitcoin mining after the S9 are two different beasts, right? Especially from like an industrial perspective, right? After 2018, 2019, that's when we started getting the big miners and everyone started actually deploying around the world big data centers. And the thing is, we were still using the same tools as we were using back when you were using USB sticks, right? So that's more or less when Bitcoin mining required a new protocol, but somehow we just didn't get around to it. So we're going to quickly look at how the machine, like your ASIC, works with a pool. And we're going to look at how Stratum V1 actually looks under the hood, because that's something that most likely many of you haven't seen before. So there's 4 main messages: subscribe, authorize, notify, and submit. Subscribe is the first message that you send. This is literally how it looks like text message. This is a copy paste, so to speak. And then the pool just says, hey, yeah, there you go. You're subscribed. This is you. This is the account. This is the miner. Perfect. Then this is a kind of a redundant one, which is like authorize. You were already authorized in the subscribe message, right? They already told you like, perfect, you're good to go. And people that are in the weeds of this, they know that this is a redundant waste of time, you know? And then we get the mining process itself. The pool notifies the miner, the ASIC, hey, look, this is your search space, start working. And the miner says, okay, hey, I found something. I think I found something. Let me submit a share, right? And that's how you get right there, the pool confirming that you got a share, that you did your job and you're going to get paid for it. And then you just repeat. The pool updates whenever a new block is found or when you run out of space, which happens more or less every 30 seconds. They update all of the miners and it repeats. The funny thing is, you may realize that this is all in plain text. And this is literally what you're sending back and forth. So it's not encrypted. It's not in binary. It's almost like me speaking to you now in English. We both know English. We might as well communicate in English, right? Both the ASIC and the pool, they speak binary. But instead of me speaking to you in English, I'll translate it to Arabic or to Chinese. My Chinese guy will translate it, will speak in Chinese to your Chinese translator, and then he will translate it back to English, right? It's a bit of a waste of time, right? As well as in this case, it's also dangerous because there's no privacy. It's not encrypted. It's not authenticated, not properly authenticated in a cryptographic manner. So that's quite dangerous. So here we get, anyway, the animations got a bit crazy. Let's put it all out and then we can discuss it all together. Let's see here. So here's how we summarize the disadvantages of Stratum V1. There's a couple more, but you can broadly put them in these categories. So first of all, a security vulnerability. Like there's been a lot of rumors there in the industry. I've heard them over my last 4 years in the industry of like hashrate hijacking, man-in-the-middle attacks, like people believing that, hey, your network hasn't been properly secured and suddenly 2 to 3 to 5% of your hash rate is disappearing and you're not sure about it because, right, the connection is also not very stable, and the way that miners sometimes show up on the pool is not the correct one. So there's a lot of variance, there's a lot of volatility, so it's hard to also check on that, right? And even if there's no hash rate hijacking, no man-in-the-middle attacks, you still have third-party snooping. Everyone on the network knows what you're doing. You're sending plain text messages. It's like screaming in the middle of your town hall of the main street of your town what you're doing. Every second, every millisecond, actually. So that's not very private either way, right? So your ISPs, your governments, they can see what you're doing. Then from an efficiency and bandwidth perspective, like you're just wasting time, like precious milliseconds that you could be using to create shares or even find the block, right? That's not necessary. That's a waste of revenue then. We also have the centralizing vector, which tends to get the most attention. But as we're seeing already, it's not the only piece, right? It's very important, and it's going to become more important over time because the critical factor is that miners are not in control of the block space. And nowadays, miners, you are mostly selling coins. That's where most of your revenue is coming from. But in the future, once 2 or 3 halvings pass, coins are not going to be the main source of revenue because block space, like the amount of space that transactions can fit in, is going to become the most scarce material available, right? The most scarce commodity available. And you're going to have governments, institutions, banks, right? Everyone vying for your space. And they're going to want to talk to you or to whoever is in control of the block space and tell them, look, I have a lucrative deal to make for you. assure me that there's a space in your block, and I will pay you handsomely for it, right? Just so that I can have my transactions on a timely manner executed, right? So then last but not least, right, all of this inefficiency also leads to latency because of how it was written. It was kind of like put together in a garage, so to speak, with like tape and WD-40, right? And it's not really like an industrial level product, right? You would not want to have your like factory building your cars kind of like put together in a mess, right? You want some quality infrastructure running it, people that have thought about it, good development, and that's not really what you find in Stratum V1. Once you peek behind the curtain, you see that it's kind of a mess, and that every pool and every miner and every installation has their own sort of setup. And yeah, it kind of works, but at the same time, once you pay close attention to it, it really doesn't. It's almost like the whole fiat system, right? Oh yeah, it works, 2% inflation, don't look at that, it kind of works, and we explode every 10, 15 years, but don't look at that, it kind of works, right? No, we all know there's something better, right? In this case, in the financial system, Bitcoin. In this case, well, we're going to get to that. And with that, we move to what is the proposed solution. Remember, back around 2018, that's when we needed the new protocol, and that's when actually the community got together and started proposing and working on the next level of Stratum V1. So here we have Matt Corrado and a few of the guys from Braze's Pool and other developers getting together and announcing that, hey, we have now a blueprint, right? We have a blueprint of what the next 100 years of mining should look like, right? What the protocol of the future should look like. But of course, a blueprint is not the house. You have the blueprint, now you have to build the house, right? And that's when in 2021, 2022, so 3 to 4 years ago, SRI, which stands for Stratum V2 Reference Implementation, was launched as a community project, a free open source software community project to start developing, to start actually building the house. And we're very proud to say that Filippo Merli, who was the lead developer at SRI, he's the one who started it with a grant from Spiral. Here we have it being announced. He's actually our CTO, so that's pretty incredible. This makes sure that we have the best knowledge on what Stratum V2 actually is and how it works, right? How the internals work. So who better to build out a pool than the person who built out the protocol, right? And yeah, it wasn't just him. Like, just to be sure, it wasn't just him. It was a whole community effort. You can see here some of the companies that participated, from BitMEX, Galaxy, Hot8, Vintium, Brains, Human Rights Foundation, OpenSats, right? Each on their own in their own manner, they helped develop this, and we have more than 40 developers coming from all walks of life and representing all different stakeholders, from like pool developers to Bitcoin miners to third-party software like firmware, right, like Foreman and whatnot. They were also chiming in and helping out. So this is like a proper like enterprise grade solution to enterprise level Bitcoin mining, right? Industrial level Bitcoin mining. And with that, we move into, once again, animations being broken. But apart from that, so this looks pretty cool. This sounds very awesome. But what are the actual benefits for us, right? In this case, the main one, numero uno, would be miner created and controlled blocks. So miners are the ones actually building the blocks and proposing them and mining on them. So you would be the one who's in control of the block, and you would be the one getting the calls from all of the big institutions wanting to throw money at you, right? Not the pools. Then secondary, binary and specified communication, meaning we are not wasting time. We are not wasting messages. We're not doing redundant computing. Like, every single byte has been thought of, and every single byte has a very specific purpose. And not just every single byte has a very specific purpose, but it's also in binary, so in the language that machines speak, and it's also encrypted. So nobody can like get in the middle, steal some of your hash rate, try to snoop on what you're doing. They have no idea what you're doing. You go from screaming, shouting in the middle of Manhattan what you're doing with like LEDs and everything, to going off grid, so to speak. Nobody knows what you're doing. You're another encrypted message package in the whole internet grid relay network, right? And the third point, which I already went through, is this encrypted and authenticated communication, right? As I said, no risk anymore, no third-party snooping, so you have privacy, no hash rate attacks, perfect, no hash rate hijacking. That's what we want, right? So that was the first vector. That's the protocol, that's the technology. But as we know, technology is only one part of the issue, not just from a decentralization perspective, but also from a mining, like operational business perspective, right? On how to make mining a profitable business, right? So in the mining payouts section, so to speak, vector, attack vector, we have FPPS as the main enemy. And people may not know this, may not be aware, unless you've been around like Scott for like ages. You may not remember a time where FPPS was not the leading and almost only payment solution. But that wasn't always the case. At the beginning, Bitcoin mining, there were all types of solutions, from PPLNS to prop mining to PPS and many others like quadratic and crazy stuff, which we don't need to get into. This is from an academic paper and analyzing how mining pools evolved on their payments systems. And yeah, you can see here FPPS appeared just around 2017. And in a way, it's kind of what happened back then is we went from pools being just a cooperative system for miners to start getting blocks. So just a simple, cheap, a working payment system or payment distributions mechanism, right? That you can see it on the gold here with Indiana Jones, to being replaced with an expensive insurance policy. That would be FPPS, because even though from end user perspective, you're still getting payments in a more or less regular manner, on the back end, there were quite a few hefty changes that actually make this made the pools completely change industry. They thought they were on the payment distribution and a minor cooperation business, and suddenly, with a small change, they were in the insurance policy business. And they did not realize what that meant until much later. And that's that FPPS has hidden costs, because FPPS is an insurance policy. Insurance companies, they are famous for requiring a lot of capital, because what if something very bad happens and you don't have the capital, right? Then you're going bankrupt and then you're out of business. And the same happens in Bitcoin mining and in pools. This is from a very good paper from Minnie Rosenfeld in 2011 on how Bitcoin mining pools work. You don't even need to understand this, because I'm going to simplify it for you. It's basically a rule of thumb, how to know how much Bitcoin in reserve, so like just sitting there idle, pools need. You can take a look at the Coinbase reward, in this case 3.125, let's say 3 Bitcoins per block, multiply by 200, and then multiply by the amount of hash rate the pool has. So if the pool has 1 exahash and it's an FPPS pool, it would need more or less 640 Bitcoins in reserve. And the crazy part about this is that that's a lot of Bitcoin just sitting idle there, just in case something goes wrong. And we have already seen a few pools over the past 5 years going bankrupt, like Poolin or BTC.com, and having to be bailed out by other pools, right? And the thing is, what people don't realize is that this Bitcoin sitting idle on the back end, making sure that there's always capital to feed the miners, right? This insurance protocol, it requires a return on investment, right? Because you could be putting these Bitcoins on some lending platform like Firefish or Debify or Ledin, and then getting a percentage on it, right? Or you could be putting it in some, I don't know, whatever. Big pools in the pool business, they're well connected, and they can definitely find better places to put their Bitcoin to work, right? And get more Bitcoin in return. So they will need to justify a reason for having this Bitcoin in reserve, right? They need to get a return on their investment. And I did some quick calculations for you guys. And that's basically the fact that if they want to get a 3% rate of return on their Bitcoin, they will need to be charging a real fee of more or less 10%. So 10% of all of the Bitcoin, of all of the hash rate being turned into Bitcoin, passing through their pool, in order for them to get a decent, a normal, a correct return on their Bitcoin, and therefore make it worth their while, because otherwise the people putting that Bitcoin, they would go to another business, right? Like an exchange, for example. In order to make it worth their while, they need to be charging 10%. So a real fee of 10%. They're going to say, that's impossible. My pool charges me 2%, 2.5% tops, 4% if you're going crazy, right? They're not charging me 10%, but that's where the trick with FPPS comes in. And it's the fact that FPPS, there's no one FPPS. Like every pool has a different formula, and most likely they're not even telling you how their formula works, because they have their quirks, they have their things. And so you end up in a system where you cannot verify, right? You cannot you cannot do the Bitcoin thing of don't trust, verify. You have to basically trust them. You got to trust the pool, some black entity, some black box entity that you have no way of controlling. You have to trust them that they're kind of paying you what they promised. But hey, if you want to check, there's no real way for you to check, right? And the problem is recently we saw that a different pool did an analysis on the difference in payouts between a PPLNS pool and an FPPS pool. And funnily enough, they found that the difference in payouts over the same amount of time in different timescales was 10 to 12%, which is a funny coincidence, right? So this takes you to the conclusion that FPPS pools, they're operating in the same way that that airport exchanges are operating in, right? Here we can see a Spanish airport currency exchange thing. It says sin comisión, or no commission, right? Basically promising you 0% fees, right? But we all know that's not true. You give them $100 and you expect to get in return more or less $100, but in euros or in yuan or yen or whichever currency, or in pesos, in Mexican pesos, or in Canadian dollars or in Australian dollars, right? $100 in US dollars, you want to get, more or less 100% of what you gave. But suddenly you do the conversion, and let's say they gave you only 70 euros, which you get your money and you do the conversion back to dollars on your phone, and you're like, whoa, that's equivalent to like $80, not $100. They said 0% commission, but this is clearly like 20% commission. What's going on here? And suddenly they slap you with all of a fee on the administration, a fee on the international, whatever. And you're like, what is this? Like, where did this all come from, right? And they still say there's 0% commission, but we all know that's a lie. And in a way, FPPS pools are doing exactly the same thing. And here's where we get to the kicker. And that's the fact that FPPS is basically dead in the water. So the days of FPPS being, everywhere are numbered. They're coming to an end, because when you're in insurance, the more there's volatility, the more reserves you need, the more Bitcoin on reserve you need, meaning that as halvings happen, fees will become a more important part of a block, right? So everything will become more volatile. We can see here that the fees are very volatile compared to the Bitcoin, the Coinbase, right? Here we had 50 Bitcoins, here we had 25, here 12.5, 6.25, and now we're here, right? These are very stable. In comparison, fees are crazy, right? So what we see is that as fees go up, volatility goes up, right, in importance. Then risk goes up for the pools, which means that they need more reserves, but more reserves means more pool fees. And funnily enough, I still remember 2-3 years ago, we had one of the bigger pools in the industry going around all of the conferences. It was a new pool, an American pool, going around all of the conferences and saying, oh, and soon we're going to have no fees because our pool is going to be financed with ancillary services, right? We're going to provide like financing, machine financing and stuff like that. And that's going to pay for the party, right? For the pool. So we're going to take the fees to zero. Funnily enough, 4 to 5 months ago, that very same pool was increasing their fees for everyone in the pool. Meaning 2-3 years later, they realized that they were not in the pool business. They were in the insurance business, and they realized they were losing money left and right. And now they got to increase the fees. They got to somehow not go bankrupt, right? And who's paying for the party? Well, it's not them, right? So that's where we get to the solution. In our case, we propose Slice, which is a way to make PPLNS adapted for the future of mining. So this way, you only get paid what you deserve, not more, and also not less. You're also not paying the party for someone else mining less efficiently. So very basically, we divide the time in which miners are mining, and we create these like little slices of time, and everyone there is equal. We've weighed them equally amongst each other, and then later on, they all get equalized, so to speak. Like the different slices, they all get like averaged out to the same level. And then whoever was mining less during that time, let's say someone wants to mine empty blocks because of some reason, they don't want to participate on the fees, then you will be getting more reward, they will be getting less. And at the end of the day, you will be getting what you were working for, while other miners choosing their own blocks without spam, or blocks without these transactions or those transactions, or blocks without transactions, they will only get paid their own like what they deserve, right? So you don't have to pick up the slack for someone not being as financially responsible as you, right? And there we go. Okay, here, and in order to like avoid the volatility of PPLNS, we're dividing out the payments over more or less 8 blocks, meaning you will be getting paid over 8 blocks, which means that even if you do demand response, you will still be getting the full value of your share, right? So that's pretty incredible, because there were problems in the past of big miners leaving other pools because they were not able to engage in demand response. And thankfully, you can follow the QR code, and well, the link if I end up sending the PDF around, but you can at least use the QR code with your phone to go to our blog, where we explain both how Slice works with more detail, and even these images over here. So you can take your time, you can pass it through ChatGPT so that he can give you some more idea of what's up. And you can also look at in our blog how we work with demand response, and why ancillary services are going to work with Slice, right? So you're going to be able to be your own miner, creating your own blocks, and also participate in demand response, in ancillary services, in heating greenhouses, or whatever you want to do, right? We do not want to get in your way in mining, right? So with that, what are the incentives for you? We already went over them. So here it is. It seems like the animations are not working with me today, but that's all right, because the summary is we did an analysis with the Stratum V2 team, with the SRI, with the other developers still working at SRI, right? On all of this that we've worked on, how profitable does that turn out to be at the end, right? And for example, we saw that stale shares or rejected shares basically disappear, like they go to zero. Well, not zero, but like you can see here, from stale shares going from like 0.2% to only 8, right? So it's 191 to only 8 out of 91,000. And especially with the job declarator, this is the tool that enables you to create your own blocks, right? So this is actually pretty awesome, because it means that the more you lean into how Stratum V2 was built, and the more sovereign you become, and the more independent you become from the pool, the more efficient you become, which is quite incredible, right? And then, so just that's from stale shares perspective, right? Because every stale share basically means, hey, you would have gotten paid for that one, but not anymore, right? That's literally the definition of missed revenue. So missed revenue, no more. And on the other end, latency and inefficiencies, right? Stuff where like a new block has been found, but it takes your miner, let's say, half a second to like update to the new job. Imagine you found a block during that time, right? Now you would have an orphan block, or just wasted work, right? So what we see is that latency, that time between like things happening on the network and your miner responding, basically disappears on Stratum V2. So we can see here, we did some tests, and it would take like 300 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds to change jobs after a block was found, and just to change jobs between jobs, right? Let's say your miner stopped, like run out of space, of search space, it would take it more or less 200 milliseconds. So 0.2 seconds to start working on an updated job, on a new job. Meanwhile, with Stratum V2 with no job declarator, meaning you using, like you as a miner using Stratum V2 just for the encryption and for the specification, that already brings it down quite a bit to like 50 milliseconds, 57 milliseconds. But if you start using your own node and you start using your own infrastructure to build your own blocks with a job declarator, these numbers are like, it's incredible, right? 1.42 milliseconds and 2.44 milliseconds. This is like absolutely incredible. That's basically saying zero, right? The improvement from 300 milliseconds to 1.4 is incredible. And all in all, we did an analysis. I believe, there we go. You can scan the QR code over there. Like, as you see, we're very transparent here. We like to share our sources. We like to share our work at demand. And you can check a report that we did with the Stratum V2 team, well, the SRI team. And you can see that more or less we accounted for more 7.4 net profit gain. So like, this is especially important for the miners that have the thinnest margins, you know, the ones that are mining on old machines or on expensive energy. This is where it matters the most. But also, even for miners that are mining with cheap electricity and new machines, it also helps, right? Like, more revenue, more profit is always positive, right? I don't think anybody ever complained about that. And we're going here for the end. So yeah, quick summary recap for everyone at home looking. Less stalled shares, lower block latency, no hash rate hijacking, and no empty blocks, right? This all means more profit. Once again, the link right there, the QR code for you guys to take a look at it. Then Slice, why do we like it? Why do we push it? In this part, we are. It was very important for the founding team that the payment method was fully transparent and auditable. So no hidden shenanigans going on. You can actually audit us and like prove that it's fair. Not just, hey, trust us. Don't worry, trust us. Don't look into it. No. Please look into it. Like, challenge us, please. And also decentralization friendly, right? Because PPLNS without job declarator, then you're just back at centralized town, so to speak, and we don't like that. And all in all, it turns into more money. And Stratum V2, we are the first pool to do the demand. We're the first pool to do Stratum V2. Here we have our two founders, Alejandro on the left. He has 10 years of Bitcoin mining pool experience. So he has been working in Bitcoin mining pools for the past 10 years. And Filippo Merli, he was the developer, the lead developer at SRI. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, here we can see the news of when we launched. And I think that's more or less it. Apart from other extra, let's say, niceties, extra features, we're working to also increase the amount of transactions going through our pool that pay extra. And transparent, auditable, Slice. And also, as a pool, we don't want to, like, we know that other pools also have their own mining operations and they're competing with their own miners, and that can lead to like wrong incentives potentially, or at least, you know, questioning yourself what's happening. And in our case, we have it very clear that we want to do pools right. Like, that's something Alejandro said from the beginning. We're only getting into the pool business. Doing a pool right is already hard enough. We just want to be a good business partner and help you make more money, and that's it. And not muddle the waters. And with that, I think, all of this meaning more BTC per ASIC, perfect. Et voila, that's it from us. That's the whole presentation. And thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
I'd like
to we have time for Q&A. So I've seen some comments here in the peanut gallery. I got some good ones and maybe just some clarifications as well. So Ron asks, how does this fee work when you mine up to a private node? What is the difference between a private node and just making it public, other than PPLNS logic?
So I imagine by private node, you mean the job declarator, right? I'm going to imagine, unless he can send a message, like quickly send a message again.
Okay, so he says, clarify, other than tracking user shares for splitting payouts, what's the difference between a private node moving to a public node then what's the difference between a public node and a public pool? Is it just share management?
I feel like we're missing like definitions of what each thing is. I feel like.
All right, Ron, if you're listening still, let us know. Okay, another comment from Ron. So does this mean that difficulty really means the size of the search space you are assigned?
No, that's the nonce and the extra. Well, nonce not anymore. It's the extra nonce and so they send you information like the previous block hash, like the Coinbase the address. Apologies, the address that you have to send it to, and a few other key details. Also, like lately, also a Merkle tree so that you can, or the first few leaves of a Merkle tree so that you can do your own extra nonce search base expansion. Because like the nonces, if you think about it, the nonce is 2 elevated to 32, if I believe. That's more or less 4 billion numbers that you can go through. And the problem with that is your bidax, like your 1 terahash miner, goes through that search space in 4 milliseconds, right? You're doing 1 trillion searches. 1 billion is 1 millionth, so divided by 1,000, right? You have 4 billion, that means 4 milliseconds. So your bidax rushes through the whole non-space in no time. And you do, like, it would be very inefficient to be sending node equals Bitcoin node to Bitcoin node that you run privately or possibly publicly. So if you run to a public node, meaning they are the ones creating the block templates, then that's basically how mining pools work right now. Like every mining pool has their own node and set of nodes distributed around the world, and they're the ones deciding the blocks. And you're, as a miner, you're just a mercenary. You're not you're not sovereign. You're just like a 9-to-5 worker, so to speak, right? You have a boss that tells you, go now, send some emails, and you just go send emails, so to speak, right?
Yeah, is that kind of the difference in, I've heard other people say, the difference between a miner and a hasher?
Correct, Scott. You hit it on the nail. That's exactly it. So a public node in this case would be like, yeah, you're using someone else's node. Usually 99.99999% of the time, that is a pools node, right? A public pool, like Foundry, Antpool, Antpool and Friends, I should say. A Marathon node, because they have their own private pool. So they're actually like the craziest example of solo mining at scale. But I don't know, Brains, Luxor, right? Then you're mining on a public node. But with Stratum V2, you have your own node with your own Bitcoin node, right? You have your own little computer with your own Bitcoin node, and then you put the demand proxy or a Stratum V2 proxy, and you connect to that Stratum V2 proxy. So you connect your miner to your own node, and then through the proxy, you connect to our pool, right? And in this case, the one sending the shares is your node. And because it's co-located with your facility, like you're going to most likely have the little computer in your facility, that's why the times are so fast, right? Meanwhile, you only need to send the shares, and the shares are very small, very simple, also in binary, efficient, all of that, right? So then we cut down on a lot of useless messages, and you're also the one, it's called job declarator protocol, and because your miner declares the job, it tells the pool, hey pool, I'm going to be working on this. Are you all right with this? And if the pool is not all right with that, because, hey, we are a Chinese pool and we don't want to have US transactions in our pool, whatever, like the world is crazy. You can think up of your own examples, right? Then you get it on the get-go, you will be notified, no, the work that you're doing here is not going to be validated by us. Go to another pool, and your miner will instantly switch to the backup, right? Secondary, tertiary backups, right? On other pools, from what we've heard, they do that after the fact. So they do like after you've been mining with them, they will look backwards. They will do like a backwards analysis and then decide which shares are like accepted or not. That's, well, trade-offs, right? Trade-offs. Like you decide where you want to mine. As long as you're not mining for Antpool and Friends, I think it's better than nothing.
I'd be happy, yeah. Okay, so I think when you're talking about Slice, we have a question here. So not sure if I got that correctly. Mark says Slice pays you for the block you are submitting, even if it's not the one that gets mined?
More or less. So in the sense, because everyone's mining on their own created blocks, right? Everyone using the job declarator protocol, of course. So your own proxy, everyone mining sovereignly, actually mining, not hashing. You have your own mempool, and you will have your own transactions in there, and perhaps someone else in Latin America, because they're closer to other nodes, they have different transactions, right? The blocks that you will be building will be different, and perhaps the miners on another, the miners that find the block inside the pool, they have slightly different transactions. But what matters is not the transactions, but the financial value inside of them. So the benchmark is always like the highest paying block template that our miners can create. So everyone gets benchmark against that, and we assume that if you're not mining that, it's because you choose not to, so to speak, right? So you're either filtering stuff or just not engaging in that, or you're not so well connected or something. So because we don't want to like put our own prejudices or thoughts, like, right, this is business, you run your business, I run my business, I don't need to tell you anything, right, on how to do that. We will just look at the financial perspective, right? From a pure financial perspective, are you providing as much as the best, or are you the best? At that point, you're getting 100% in that slice, right? And people that are choosing to not be, let's say, to not work by financial incentives, by economic incentives, well, they will get less, right? So perhaps your exact block composition is not found, but what matters is that from a fee perspective, if you're working, if your shares are like the best financial value possible, then that's what you're going to get. And if you for any given reason, voluntary or involuntary, they're a bit less, then you're going to get that slight percentage less. But this is a way to future proof it, because in the future, let's say, I mean, I guess I'm done with that question.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Mark also adds, I see that incentivizing every miner to fill the blocks submitted to demand as much as possible, but isn't there some economic issues if a block without fees gets mined, but all other miners were submitting high-paying fee blocks?
Yeah. So in that case, that wouldn't be a problem per se. It's just like when you think about it, in a PPLNS pool, you can think of it as like pizzas, right? Every day there's 144 pizzas in the network, and pools, usually what they did is they just got a lot of Italian restaurants together, and whenever one of them created a pizza, then everyone ate, right? And then we switched to FPPS, where it's like, regardless of if a pizza is baked, right, you will get pizza slices, you will eat, don't worry, right? Which then it's an insurance, like, oh, where are you getting your pizzas from then? Like, that's funny. But with PPLNS, with this new PPLNS, is like, look, that restaurant was working much more. Therefore, once any one of us finds a pizza, they will get a slightly bigger share, right? Like their slices will be a slightly bit bigger, so to speak, right? So what would happen is then everyone else, like everyone in the pool, once the block is found, they will just subdivide the Bitcoin, the transactions in that block, according to the weight of their shares in the time span. So yes, you could say that then at that point, everyone would have less Bitcoin, like would make less Bitcoin, but the ones primarily punished, so to speak, would be the ones that were mining without fees. Because out of the lesser fee block or lesser paying block that they got, they would be the ones getting the least amount of it, right? So, but hey, that's your prerogative, right? Like you decide that, right? It's your business. You have your economic incentives, and perhaps you have other incentives that supersede your economic incentives, right? Perhaps your values make it more important, and you're willing to mine in this way. Then so be it. So be it. But we don't need to pay for your party, so to speak, right? But what we're not doing, how can I get information on this topic? Well, demands.work. I don't know where I can post it, but otherwise this is going to be filmed. I put a few QR codes on screen, and you can like scan those, and that will take you to our blog. DMND actually. Let's see, DMND.
Oh.
Apologies. No worries. I should have clarified.
DMND. There we go.
We were so cool, we decided to drop the vowels. DMND.work. You can find us there. Otherwise, follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and yeah, we try to go to as many conferences as possible to like show that, hey, we're not hidden, right? Like we exist, like it's real, right? So yeah.
And so you guys will be in Irving in November for Mining Disrupt, or
in November. Yeah, wait, November. Or yes, I will be there. I will go to La BitConf in Argentina, and then I'll be. Thankfully, they planned it together, I guess, because then I have 2 days to fly over from Argentina to Texas. So I'll see you there. Let's see what Marcus says. Got a Kocha Kenobi. Makes sense. Even if the pie is small, you get paid fairly for what you were submitting. Exactly.
and
Yes.
let's see. Ryan says, "Will you be in my?" Yes, yeah.
Yes, I'll be there. I think I'm on a panel there. I would have to double check, but I will be around. Otherwise,
I might have seen your face there. They made some announcements recently, but yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I have the flights. I have the hotel, so you'll see me around.
Good. All right. Well, Kenobi, yeah, just stay on here for a little bit so that the video can continue uploading. And I'm just gonna do a couple of last things here. Again, reminder: if you want some mining deals, go to Telegram, Scott's Deals. Okay. As well, we do have the happy hour. We were talking about Mining Disrupt on the Wednesday night, the night of the first night, not the night of the pre-party, but we do have this party here on the Wednesday. You are all invited. So you can scan this QR code or go to 2.tools/happy hour. And that is that. All right.
Thank you for joining us in the MasterMINED Club, your ultimate gateway into the world of Bitcoin mining. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your operations, our vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts is here to support you every step of the way. Join us next week where you'll exchange ideas, brainstorm strategies, and stay motivated on your mining journey. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week.